My name is Lily. I am 31 years old. I work in a small office in the city. My life is quiet and simple. Every morning, I wake up early. I drink coffee. Then I go to work. I sit at my desk. I answer emails. I finish my tasks. My days are calm and predictable. I don't have many friends. I don't go to parties. After work, I usually go home and read a book or watch a movie. Some people may think my life is boring, but I feel safe in my quiet world. Everything was normal until the day a new boss arrived. His name was Michael. Michael was 41 years old. He was tall and confident, but also warm and friendly. The first time he walked into the office, everyone noticed him. Not because he was loud or strict, but because he smiled so easily. His voice was calm and gentle. When he spoke, people listened. On his first day, he walked around the office and greeted everyone. When he came to my desk, he smiled kindly. "Hello," he said. "You must be Lily." I nodded a little nervously. "Yes, nice to meet you." He held out his hand. I shook it quickly. "I'm happy to work with you," he said. I smiled politely and returned to my computer. At that moment, he was only my boss. Nothing more, or at least that was what I thought. In the beginning, our conversations were simple and professional. He asked about reports. He asked about schedules. Sometimes he asked if I needed help. But slowly, something began to change. Michael was different from other bosses I had worked with before. He remembered small details about people. If someone mentioned their favorite coffee, he remembered. If someone talked about their weekend plans, he asked about it later. One morning, he walked past my desk and stopped. "Good morning, Lily," he said. "Good morning," I replied. He looked at the files on my desk. "You always arrive early, don't you?" he asked with a small smile. I nodded. "Yes, I like to finish my work early." "That's a good habit," he said. "Not many people are that responsible." His words made me feel warm inside. No one at work had ever noticed small things like that before. After that day, he spoke to me more often. Sometimes he asked simple questions. "Did you have a good weekend? Are you feeling okay today? Is the workload too heavy?" Each time he spoke to me, I felt my heart beat a little faster. At first, I ignored the feeling, but slowly, I started to enjoy our conversations. I liked hearing his voice. I liked his quiet laugh. I liked the way he looked at people when they spoke, like he was truly listening. Sometimes he stood beside my desk to talk about work. Sometimes he asked my opinion during meetings. And every time he said my name, something inside me felt different. One evening, while I was walking home, I realized something that scared me. I had been thinking about him all day, not about work, about him, his smile, his voice, the way he said, "Good morning, Lily." I stopped walking for a moment and shook my head. "No," I whispered to myself. "This is not good." But my heart did not listen. The days continued. Michael often walked past my desk during the morning. Every time he saw me, he greeted me with that same warm smile. "Good morning, Lily." "Good morning." Our conversations slowly became longer. One afternoon, he came to my desk to help me with a computer problem. He leaned closer to look at the screen. I could feel his shoulder almost touching mine. My hands suddenly felt cold. My heart started beating very fast. He pointed at something on the screen. "Try clicking here," he said. I moved the mouse, but my fingers were shaking slightly. At that moment, his hand accidentally touched mine. It was only for a second, but it felt like electricity. I quickly pulled my hand away. "Sorry," he said gently. "It's okay," I replied. But it was not okay. My face felt warm. My heart was racing. He looked at me for a moment. "Are you all right?" he asked. I forced a small smile. "Yes, I'm fine." But inside, I was not fine at all. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Why was I feeling like this? Why was my heart reacting this way? I tried to tell myself it was nothing, just admiration, just respect for a good boss. But deep inside, I knew the truth. I liked him, maybe more than I should. A few days later, something happened that changed everything. That morning, Michael stood near the office window while talking with another manager. As he moved his hand, I noticed something shining on his finger. A ring. A wedding ring. My chest suddenly felt tight. Of course he was married. A man like him, kind and successful, would have a family. Why hadn't I thought about that before? I looked away quickly and stared at my computer screen. My heart felt heavy. I whispered quietly to myself, "You must stop this, Lily." But feelings are not easy to control. Even after that moment, my heart did not change. I still noticed his smile. I still listened to his voice during meetings. I still felt nervous when he stood near me. But now, every feeling came with pain. Because I knew something important. He was not free. He belonged to someone else. Days passed like this. A quiet love growing inside my heart. A love that I never planned. A love that I could never speak about. At night, I sat alone in my small apartment. Sometimes I looked out the window and thought about him. Then I asked myself the same question again and again. Why did my heart choose someone who can never be mine? But no answer ever came, and deep inside, I already knew something dangerous. I was falling in love with a married man. The days after that realization were not easy for me. Every morning, I walked into the office and tried to act normal. I sat at my desk. I opened my computer. I answered emails. From the outside, nothing had changed. But inside my heart, everything was different. Now I knew the truth. Michael was married. Somewhere outside this office, he had a wife. Maybe he had children, too. Maybe there was a home where he laughed and shared dinner with his family. And yet, every day, he still walked past my desk with that same warm smile. "Good morning, Lily." "Good morning," I replied softly. I tried to keep my voice calm. I tried to keep my eyes on my computer. But my heart always betrayed me. It beat faster the moment he spoke. I told myself again and again that this feeling had to stop. I told myself that loving him would only bring pain. But the more I tried to forget him, the more I noticed every small thing about him. The way he held his coffee cup in the morning. The way he pushed his hair back when he was thinking. The way his voice became gentle when someone felt stressed. Sometimes I caught myself looking at him during meetings. I tried not to stare, but it was difficult. When he spoke, I listened carefully, even when the topic had nothing to do with me. One afternoon, we had a long meeting about a new project. Everyone sat around the conference table. Papers were spread everywhere. People were discussing ideas. Michael stood near the screen, explaining something. I pretended to write notes, but my eyes slowly lifted toward him. For a moment, he looked in my direction. Our eyes met. I quickly looked down at my notebook. My face felt warm. I hoped no one noticed. After the meeting ended, people began leaving the room. I stayed behind for a moment to organize my papers. Suddenly, I heard his voice behind me. "Lily!" I turned around. He was standing only a few steps away. "You always work very carefully," he said with a small smile. I shrugged slightly. "I just try to do my best." He nodded. "And you do. I appreciate that." Those simple words stayed with me the whole day. I knew they were just kind comments from a boss to an employee, but to me, they meant more than they should have. That evening, I walked home slowly. The streets were busy. People were talking and laughing around me. But my mind was somewhere else. I kept hearing his words again. I appreciate that. Why did such simple words make me so happy? When I reached my apartment, I sat quietly on my couch. The room felt empty. Sometimes I wondered if my life had been too quiet for too long. Maybe that was why my heart reacted so strongly to someone who simply showed kindness. Days passed like this. I kept my feelings hidden. No one at the office knew my secret, and I was sure Michael did not know either. Then, one Saturday afternoon, something unexpected happened. That day I felt restless at home. My mind was full of thoughts again. I decided to go outside for some fresh air. There was a small park not far from my apartment. I often went there when I needed to clear my mind. The park was peaceful that day. Children were running across the grass. Some people were walking their dogs. Others sat on benches reading books. The sun was warm but gentle. I found an empty bench under a tall tree and sat down. For a few minutes, I simply watched the world around me. I tried to relax. I told myself not to think about work, not to think about Michael. Just breathe. Just enjoy the quiet moment. I closed my eyes for a short time. Then suddenly, I heard a voice nearby. A voice that made my heart stop. "Careful! Don't run too fast!" I opened my eyes. My heart began beating quickly. I knew that voice. Slowly, I turned my head, and there he was. Michael. He was standing only a few steps away, but he was not alone. A woman stood beside him. She looked around his age. She had long brown hair and a bright smile. Her hand rested gently on his arm. In front of them, a little boy was running across the grass. He looked about 6 years old. Behind him, a small girl followed, laughing loudly. "Daddy, look!" the girl shouted. Michael bent down and picked her up easily. He kissed her forehead and laughed. "Slow down," he said warmly. My chest suddenly felt tight. Everything became very quiet around me. That woman beside him must be his wife. Those children must be his family. They looked happy together. Very happy. The boy ran back toward them and grabbed Michael's hand. The little girl was still in his arms, giggling. The woman laughed softly. For a moment, they looked like a perfect picture of family life. I sat completely still on my bench. I was afraid to move, afraid that if I moved even a little, they might notice me. But at the same time, I could not stop watching them. This was a side of Michael I had never seen before. At the office, he was calm and professional. Here, he was different. Here, he was a husband, a father, a man who belonged to a life that had nothing to do with me. Suddenly, the reality became very clear. I felt something heavy inside my chest, a quiet pain, not loud, not dramatic, just deep and real. I turned my face away and looked toward the trees. My eyes were starting to fill with tears, but I did not want to cry there in the park. I took a deep breath and stayed quiet. A few minutes later, I heard their footsteps moving farther away. The children were still laughing. Then their voices slowly disappeared. When I finally looked again, they were gone. The park felt empty now. I remained on the bench for a long time. My thoughts were heavy. Before today, my feelings had been like a dream, a secret hope, a quiet fantasy. But now I had seen the truth with my own eyes. Michael had a beautiful family, a wife who loved him, children who ran toward him with joy. He did not belong to me. He never would. I lowered my head and whispered softly to myself, "You must stop this, Lily." But my heart felt broken. I stayed there until the sun began to set. Then I slowly stood up and walked home. That night, I did not eat dinner. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The image of Michael holding his daughter kept appearing in my mind. Finally, tears rolled down my face. I turned my head toward the pillow and whispered quietly, "Please forget him." But deep inside, my heart answered with painful honesty, "I can't." Monday morning came too quickly. I woke up after a restless night. My eyes felt heavy. I had barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same image again. Michael holding his little daughter in the park, laughing with his wife and son. It was a beautiful scene, but for me, it was painful. For a moment, I thought about calling in sick. I did not want to go to the office. I did not want to see him. But I knew that hiding would not solve anything, so I forced myself to get ready. I dressed quietly, drank my coffee, and left my apartment. The city was already busy. People rushed to work, talking on their phones or holding cups of coffee. Everything looked normal. But inside my chest, my heart still felt heavy. When I arrived at the office, I sat down at my desk and opened my computer. I tried to focus on my work. I answered emails. I checked reports. Then I heard footsteps. I didn't need to look up. I already knew who it was. "Good morning, Lily." I slowly lifted my eyes. Michael stood beside my desk, smiling the same way he always did. For a moment, I almost forgot everything. "Good morning," I replied. But my voice sounded quieter than usual. He looked at me carefully. "You seem a little tired today," he said. "I didn't sleep well," I answered. He nodded with concern. "You should take care of yourself. Working too hard isn't always good." His voice was gentle, just like always. And suddenly, something inside me felt even more painful. Because he was kind. Because he cared. But he did not know how much that kindness affected me. He gave me a small smile before walking back toward his office. I watched him go for a moment, then quickly looked back at my screen. I needed to stay strong. The day moved slowly. I tried to focus on my tasks, but my mind kept drifting away. Every time I heard his voice somewhere in the office, my heart reacted. It was exhausting. Later that afternoon, something unexpected happened. Most employees had already left for the day. The office was quiet. Only a few lights were still on. I stayed behind to finish a report. I thought I was alone. Then I heard footsteps behind me. "Still working?" I turned around. Michael was standing there. "Yes," I said softly. "I wanted to finish this before tomorrow." He walked closer and leaned slightly against the desk. "You work very hard," he said. I shrugged. "It's just part of the job." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The office felt strangely quiet. Then he looked at me again. "Lily," he said gently. "Yes?" "I want to tell you something." My heart suddenly beat faster. I didn't know why, but I felt nervous. "You are one of the most reliable people in this office," he continued. "You always stay calm, you help others, and you never complain." I looked down at my hands. His words made me feel both happy and uncomfortable. "You're special, Lily." That word again, special. My chest tightened. No one had ever said that to me before. I didn't know what to say. "Thank you," I whispered. He remained silent for a moment. Then he spoke again, more quietly. You make this place better. I slowly looked up at him. Our eyes met. For a brief second, something passed between us. Something quiet but powerful. Then he looked away. I should go, he said softly. He straightened up and walked toward his office. I stayed at my desk, completely still. My heart was beating so loudly that I could almost hear it. After a few minutes, I packed my things and left the building. Outside, the evening air was cool. I walked slowly down the street, thinking about everything that had happened. His words kept repeating in my mind. You're special. You make this place better. Maybe those words meant nothing to him. Maybe he said them without thinking. But for me, they meant everything. When I reached my apartment, I stood in front of the mirror. I looked at my reflection for a long time. Why are you doing this to yourself? I asked quietly. My eyes filled with tears, because I already knew the answer. I loved him, but loving him would only bring pain. He had a wife, he had children, he had a life that did not include me. And no matter how kind he was, no matter how warm his words felt, that truth would never change. That night, I sat by the window and watched the city lights. Cars moved slowly through the streets. People walked past my building, talking and laughing. Life continued normally for everyone, but inside my heart, something important was changing. I realized something. Love is not always about being with someone. Sometimes love means accepting reality. Sometimes love means letting go. Michael would probably always remain in my heart. His kindness, his smile, the way he said my name. But I could not allow myself to live inside a dream that could never become real. I deserved a life of my own. I deserved happiness that did not belong to someone else's story. So that night, I made a quiet promise to myself. I would stop hoping. I would stop imagining a future that was impossible. It would not be easy. My feelings would not disappear overnight. But slowly, step by step, I would learn to move forward. I would focus on my own life, my own dreams, my own happiness, because loving someone should never mean losing yourself. And maybe one day, somewhere in the future, I would meet someone who could truly be mine. Until that day, I would protect my heart. And finally, for the first time in a long while, I felt something new. Not pain, not sadness, but a small, quiet sense of freedom. A new beginning was waiting for me. And this time, my story would belong to me. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who loves emotional stories. Your support helps our channel grow and allows us to bring you more beautiful stories every day. Welcome to Cozy English Story, a place where you can relax, improve your English, and enjoy meaningful stories at the same time. We upload new English stories every day to help you practice listening, learn new vocabulary, and experience powerful life lessons through storytelling. If you enjoy learning English through stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to Cozy English Story and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. We would also love to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were in Lily's situation? Thank you so much for watching and being part of our Cozy English Story community. See you in the next story.